Hello, Fourth Avenue Church. God bless you and your family during this problem, the illnesses that has affected not only our nation but the entire world. And it's a privilege for me to share a few thoughts with you from the Scriptures that will help to build us up and encourage us, that we may allow God's faith in us to even grow more than it has in the past, and deal with the issues that are before us. And I'm thinking of at least a couple of matters. In the 12th chapter of the book of 2 Corinthians, Paul says that he was caught up to paradise, into the third heaven, and there he was. He saw inexpressible things. I believe that it was not that he was not told, don't go back down to earth and tell what you saw. I believe that he could not put in human words what he saw. But here's the reason. God knew what he was going to experience in the last days of his life. And so Paul needed that experience in heaven itself to show that God's grace is greater than any kind of a problem that we can encounter on earth. And that his strength in us is greater. And I've often thought, isn't it interesting that how much greater the grace of God has to be to save us than all the things that Satan does to destroy us. And so we're in a battle right now. We're being challenged. And I believe that the Lord took Paul up into the third heaven for a considerable time, maybe a fortnight, in order for him to have the strength when he came back. Now, the Greek language tells us it's like that the devil shot an arrow into his back when he suffered a horrible persecution and trials. And so that leads me then to another illustration in his life where he needed the kind of faith that I believe that he received in the very presence of God. And this we'll find in the 28th chapter of the book of Acts. Paul has been in a series in Jerusalem. His life was threatened. He appealed to Caesar. And of course, being a Roman citizen, that was his privilege. And he came to Caesarea, to Philippi, that's where the coast was, and to get on a ship. And the weather was tenuous, and he didn't want to go. And somebody advised the captain of the ship not to go, but the centurion, the Roman centurion, had authority over all. And he said, "No, we're going." And so the ship sailed, and it headed toward Crete, and God caused a storm. Oh yes, God brought a storm, maybe unlike the Mediterranean has ever seen. Because at any time in the daytime, when it should have been light, it was as if it was middle darkness of the midnight, and the boat just up and down, and the people thought that it was going to be lost. They threw everything. They threw all their tackle, even their food, over the sides, and wanted to actually get rid of kill the prisoners, thinking that would save them. But an angel appeared to Paul in the night. An angel appeared to Paul in the night and told him not to be afraid. And it was Paul's faith that kept 263 men from dying in that storm. When the ship came near, they jumped off and with boards and things, and made it into this. It's just on the very southern part of Italy. And so the people there were friendly toward them. They had sympathy for the people who just come off such a ship experience. And they built a fire. And as Paul put a stick on the fire, a serpent came up out of that fire and fastened itself on his hand. A serpent did. They knew. They said, "Well, he escaped the sea. He must be a murderer. He escaped the sea, but he's not going to escape his destiny." Well, Paul just shook that serpent back off into the fire and preached to them. And the leader of that little island's name was Publius. He had an estate, and they were invited to go to his house. And while he was there, he realized that the father of the man in charge of that island was very ill. He had a fever and a dysentery, and so Paul went in to him and put his hand. The same hand that the snake had bitten is the same hand God used to bring healing. And so I want us in these days to think about things that don't seem to be going so well for us. Maybe those are the very things that God can use in our experience of success to go forward and to have a different attitude toward life. And so the Bible tells us then that all the people from that little island came to be healed. And so it was a great, joyous revival. But these are a few thoughts that I thought I'd share with you about the blessings that God knew that Paul would need that strength. And he took him to heaven to show him. And the Father said, whatever you're going to encounter, I'm stronger than it is. My love is greater than any hatred or any bad things that can happen. And then in the little experience about the snake, the same hand that was bitten by that snake, it began to swell. They thought he was going to die, but he didn't. And that same hand then was laid on a sick man, and he was healed. Isn't that interesting? That's the God we serve. We love him, and we love you, Fourth Avenue. God bless you today.